Well, hey, everybody, we are live, and I'm back, and I'm alive. Give a whole new meaning to going live after you've been in Burma for a couple of weeks. It's good to see you. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for being on with me. I want to very quickly give you a little taste of what I'm going to be talking about, what I'm going to be showing you today about my recent trip to Burma. Burma, as you know, is also called Myanmar, and it has been in war for the last 70 years, but it's gotten much, much worse recently. And so take a look at just the kind of things I'm going to be showing you in this broadcast. The Burma Army has now called in fighter jets, and so I'm taking shelter in this drainage ditch. I can hear the jet right overhead. You all right?
Yeah. You staying here? Hey, Doc.
No?
Come a little more. Hey, Chuck.
Yeah.
Lord, please bless us in Jesus' name. Amen. Behind us. Good job, Chuck. Thank you, Jesus. Help miss again. That was the bomb. You didn't hear that?
That was a strafe.
It was a bomb, innit? It was
No, that was a strafe right there.
There was a bomb.
I heard a bomb.
This is recording. Maybe it was a bomb.
And there was a strafe as well then.
I think it was two bombs. Like
They got two jets?
no, they have 9 hard points. They might have 2 jets, but they got 9 hard points. They can drop more than one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was just like 60 seconds of one day of the last 2 weeks. And the last 2 weeks have been just insane. There's a lot of fighting going on in Burma, and we have been there. I've been there with the Free Burma Rangers. It's essentially like I'm trying to figure out how to describe this to you, because I realize most people don't have experiences like this to draw from, to give you context to understand what it's like being in there. Without a doubt, when you cross the border into Burma, you cross into a third world country. You go from internet to no internet. You go from paved roads to almost no paved roads. There's some here, just to give you an idea of what it looks like in there. This is just driving through Burma. This is on one of the few paved roads. You can see the homes there are made from bamboo. There's by and large no electricity. Most of the roads that we traveled on looked like this. They were dirt roads, 4-wheel drive tracks. The dust is absolutely brutal, and it just gets into everything. It's that fine talcum powder dust. Just really bad, really, really bad. And we had about 50 people that were in our group. The Free Burma Rangers, very quickly, is a humanitarian aid organization that's been around for more than 25 years, founded by my friend Dave Eubank, a guy that I served with in the Rangers for a couple of years of my 4-year tour in the Rangers. He was an officer and I was a private, so we didn't really know each other back then. We met, I don't know, about 15 years ago on my first trip to Burma. We actually met in Thailand, and kind of have become very close friends since then. I've been working with the Free Burma Rangers for over 14 years, and I've been to Iraq, Kurdistan, Ukraine, Syria, and of course Burma with them on many missions. I try to go on mission with the Free Burma Rangers about once a year. To describe what we do, FBR fills the gap between the place where people get hurt and the place where people can get help. When it comes to a war, a disaster, there's often a humanitarian gap because organizations like the Red Cross or Samaritan's Purse do a lot of good, but their policies won't allow them to go right into the front lines. And so that's what we do. We go right into the front lines. We train the people that are in there on things like first aid, combat rescue, things like, stop the bleed, stuff like that. And we bring the gospel to them. Everything we do is centered around Jesus. Although you don't have to be a Christian to be a part of the Free Burma Rangers. We have people who are Buddhists. We have people who are animists. We have people who are nothing. And Muslim that all work for CBN. I'm sorry, CBN, for FBR. And I was there working both for CBN and FBR. So I was reporting for the Christian Broadcasting Network and Newsmax and some others while I was also working as a ranger there. Now, it's a volunteer organization. Don't get paid to be there, not by FBR anyway. And it was obviously detrimental to my YouTube channel because I haven't been doing lives for a while and everybody thought maybe I'd dropped off the face of the earth. But it's something that I feel very passionately about. We've been able to help a lot of people, and these are people who need to have their stories told. This is a war that's been going on here in Burma for 70 years or more. It is primarily ethnic and tribal, although it does have some overtones of religiosity, meaning the Buddhist military dictatorship that runs Burma. They have been in control of Burma since the end of World War II. And they're Buddhist, they're Burmese, ethnically. There are many ethnicities that live in Burma. The Hill tribe people are made up of about 120 different tribes. There's 12 primary tribes. The Karen, the Karenni, the Shan, the Wunan, the Po, I can't name them all, but there are a lot of different tribes. The Rohingya are here, although they're on the other side of the country. And without a doubt, that plays a huge part. Those ethnicities play a huge part in that rivalries between them in this conflict. What FBR has been trying to do in Burma is to bring those tribes together and unite them so that they can throw off the shackles of the dictatorship. And they've been somewhat successful at that over the last, or since, 2022, I believe, or 21, I guess. There was a coup attempt where they actually had elections and they elected some actual democratic leaders, not all of them. I mean, the military dictatorship still had a hold on things, but they didn't like the way that the democratically elected leaders were taking stuff. And so they instigated a coup against the democratic leadership and put those people in prison. You can learn a lot more about all that by watching the videos that I put out. So what I did, since when you go into Burma, you don't have any internet. You don't have, it's very difficult to get any, there's no cell phone service, very little electricity, running water, anything like that. It's third world. And we were essentially camping. I slept in a hammock every night that I was in Burma. So it's really tough to get the word out about what's going on. So what I did was I filmed about a 10-minute podcast every day I was there. And I'm going to start putting those out one day at a time so that you can journey along with me and see what it was like to be there and see the incredible things that we saw, understand a lot more about the people of Burma. The religious aspect is that most of the hill tribe people are, I say most, a majority of the hill tribe people are Christian. And they're Christian because there were Christian missionaries that went there and evangelized them 150 years ago or more. And so it's amazing. You're in this third world country. It feels like Asia, so you expect like Buddhism or Hinduism or some kind of something like that. And then you see these churches everywhere that look like the Baptist church I grew up in. It's just amazing. Many of the people there are themselves Baptist. It's crazy. So they are our brothers and sisters in Christ. They've been persecuted for a long time, and their story deserves to be told. I've had people emailing me and saying, why did you leave and quit doing your YouTubes? You've been helping so many people. And yeah, okay, well, I am doing what I feel called to do. It's not profitable. It's cost me to go in there, but it's something I feel strongly about. And I feel like people need to know about our brothers and sisters in Christ who are being massacred by the tens of thousands every year inside Burma, and nobody knows about it. Nobody cares. Nobody reports on it. Nobody does a thing about it. So many of you, when I was in the run up to my trip and I started talking about going to Burma, many of you sent funds to try to donate to help our brothers and sisters and the people that are hurting inside Burma. And I desperately appreciate that. And we were actually, we were hopefully going to give some money anyway. And so with what we gathered from our viewers and with what we wanted to throw in, we're going to help build a hospital. We helped several families and several people who just were, we ran across them, and it was obvious that, hey, if I give this person $100, it's going to be like life-changing for them, that really help them get where they need to go or do what they need to do or whatever. But we raised so much money that I'd have to like go around just throwing money out the window to get rid of that much. So what we did was we partnered with the Free Burma Rangers, and we're going to build a hospital in a place where there isn't one. And there is another hospital, but they have a problem with it getting bombed on a regular basis. And so what they're trying to do is make a clinic nearby. Of course, you have to walk everywhere if you're local. And so, for me, I'd be like, well, there's a hospital 15 miles away. We don't need another one over here. And it's like, do you want to walk 15 miles when you get shot? So we're helping them build a hospital and we're paying for a substantial portion of it with the funds that people donated through the podcast here. And so thank you for that. I mean, it doesn't cost much. We only have to raise about $30,000 to pay for the entire thing. The people are doing the labor for free. All we're buying is the materials. The materials are being made out of cheap and easily available local building materials, bamboo and wood. And so for very little money, we're building a hospital, and they're going to staff it with volunteers. And that is just fabulous. That is so cool. So I want you to know that I am, Heather says, are doctors available for the hospital? Volunteer doctors are giving their time, donating their time to come and serve in these hospitals. We brought 2 American surgeons with us into Burma, and they spent the entire time literally saving lives. I mean, they showed up, there were wounded coming in like crazy. It was like a MASH hospital. And these guys were just working on people as fast as they could. And they literally were saving people's lives. These are people that without a doubt would have died if those 2 surgeons had not been there. And what an incredible feeling that must be Makes me wish I knew more about medicine. Uh, so, and what they also did is in between bouts of wounded coming in, those surgeons and doctors got the local medical personnel around. These are people who have medical training. Uh, they were trained at the, medical school in Burma, but they don't have advanced medical training. That's because it is, like I say, a third world country. And so our doctors would sit them down and would give them courses of instruction, just like on the job training when there's wounded and when there's not wounded. We sit down and we, put up a whiteboard and a hammock, and the doctor sits in the hammock and draws on the whiteboard and explains things, rudimentary stuff that these nurses and doctors and first responders from Burma have never heard of. And it's some of the things that they were able to do in just ridiculous conditions. I actually have some footage of this. Were just astounding. These guys, were out in the woods, in the jungle. It's dry season, so it's super dry. That's one of the doctors there without his hat on, who just stood up. And he's working on a wounded patient. There you see the guy with the IV there. That's one of our surgeons. He's holding the IV up. And they just brought this wounded guy in. I'm going to back this up a little bit. You see the doctor, he's there pointing out. He's got his stethoscope around his neck. And they're working on this wounded patient. Amazing, amazing stuff. It was so amazing that in the after action review that we always do yesterday, once we got out, we were sitting around and that doctor just broke down in tears. And he was like, he didn't even know why he was really crying. He was just like, it was so amazing what we did. And the kind of work they were doing is the kind of stuff that would have gotten them arrested in their home countries if they tried to do that. But when you've got nothing to work with, you just do the best you can. They laid out some bamboo poles and put a tarp over it and some padding, and laid these guys out there, try to make it as clean as possible, put some gloves on, and went to work suturing people up and pulling shrapnel out of people and, cleaning out, sucking chest wounds and stuff. It was amazing. And it wasn't just soldiers, it was civilians that they were treating. Most of the wounded, I would say, that they were treating were civilians who were hit by bombs and mortars and bullets and also landmines. There's landmines everywhere. It was really incredible. The hot zone, is this normal levels of attacks, or is it higher than normal? Well, it is higher than it's been over the last 25 years because as of 2021, they're in a full-scale civil war, and many of the Burmese people have turned against the military junta and have joined the rebel armies. And so many of the people we met up in the Karen area, the Shan district, they were actually Burmans, which you never saw before. But they're coming up there. They're educated. They're college students. They speak English, and you're like, what tribe are you from? And they said, none of them. We're Burman, and we just came up here because we're fed up. We're sick of it. We want freedom. We want democracy. And the reason that the Burma military dictatorship won't give them democracy is because they're making too much money on the status quo. Burma has a tremendous amount of natural resources. We saw some of them. We saw gold mines. We saw sapphire mines. And they are essentially pressing people into service, forced labor, putting them in camps where there are mines, making them mine the gold and the sapphires and stuff out of the ground, and then selling it off and keeping the money for themselves. So they're enriching themselves through the labor of the people. They are growing tons of opium. You would think that with all the fentanyl running around out there that the market for opium would be dropping, but it's not. Burma is the second largest producer of illegal opium on the planet. And we saw a lot of opium poppies being cultivated and grown out there, but the people cultivating it aren't making much money. They get paid pennies on the dollar, and then they get sold for much, much more money into China or whatever on its way to the United States and Europe. And the people making the money are the military dictatorship. There's a tremendous amount of scamming. There are literal scam center. Somebody donated money, $20. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I can't see your username. I'd thank you by name. But, you know, they have built these huge industrial parks right on the border with Thailand. And you can actually see them from Thailand right across the border, across the river there, the Salween River. And they recruit people to, hey, come here and we'll give you a good job and whatever, an office job. And they come to Burma and they get locked in these industrial parks. It's basically a big concentration camp, and they get made into forced labor, and they have to, do cyber scamming on people all around the world. So they're massive cyber scamming centers that they're building there, and this is becoming a new industry. And most of them are run by Chinese oligarchs. Thank you very much for the hospital fund. Thank you, Stephen. This is great. We're gonna build a hospital. I would have never thought, even 6 months ago, if you had told me we were going to be helping to build a hospital. I'm significantly helping, not just a little bit. I would have thought you were crazy, but you guys are doing this, and I'm blown away by your generosity. So I thank you very much for that. We went to one of the hospitals. They had to rebuild it because it got bombed where it had been. So they put it out into the jungle, deep in the jungle, and you weren't even allowed to drive up there. Only the ambulance could drive in there. And the ambulance is a pickup truck. It's not an ambulance. It's just a pickup truck. But they wouldn't let us drive in there because they didn't want any chance of it being found out and bombed again. So they drop you off at the bottom of the mountain, and you have to hike for 15, 20 minutes to get to the hospital. And when we got there, it was full of these, wounded civilians and soldiers laying around in these wards, just like 15, 20, 30 people in a room, some of them grievously injured, some not so bad. And they have, if you get there at the wrong time of day, there's just this unearthly screaming going on because they have to debride everybody's wounds. And they have, so the debriding hour, where that's what they take all the staff and they go in with scrub brushes and they scrub out everybody's wounds to make sure they're clean, because they don't have the antibiotics they need. They don't have the equipment they need to properly clean the wounds, and they don't have pain meds. And so they don't give these people pain meds. So you imagine, we saw somebody with an open wound that was almost the size of my forearm, just like this. It was just open, raw, where it was a shrapnel injury. I could show you pictures, but it would gross you out and ruin your supper. But they basically take a scrub brush and water and just scrub that wound, and they do it over and over and over again to debride the tissue so that it will heal. But when they're doing that, people are just screaming bloody murder all at once. They have 15 people at once, all just screaming at the top of their lungs. And it sounds like a horror movie. I mean, it is a horror movie. It's terrible. They also had some wounded Burma soldiers there, some wounded enemy soldiers who had been captured. And it was very interesting. We actually got to talk to one of the wounded soldiers, a couple of them actually. And one of them admitted to murdering a woman and 2 children. And it was all the translator could do not to throttle him right there. It's just, you could tell he had to get up and leave. The translator was so angry at what this guy was admitting to having done. He's like, I want to kill him. I want to kill him. And we're like, grace, grace. He's going to get justice, but they're keeping him alive here so that he can get a fair trial. They're trying to do the right thing, not just summarily execute people, but actually give him a trial. And then if he's convicted, then they'll hang him or shoot him or whatever they do. Unfortunately, the guy who really was responsible for the killings that this guy was admitting to was their captain. And that guy is going to get executed without a doubt, because they caught him lying about it. He was denying it, and then other people that were there said, "Dude, we saw you kill those women and children. You gave the order, you know." And so that guy's a goner. But again, they're going to give him a jury of his peers. They're going to let him face his accusers, and so it's really cool. You know, we met with some of the leadership in the different provinces that we went to. These are people who will likely be big-time leaders, national leaders, if the Burma junta ever collapses. And they're already putting together another government. They are planning for the future, believing that they're going to win, and they are holding space open for members of tribes that haven't even joined them yet, that are still fighting on the enemy side, and saying, no, they're gonna come around. They're gonna come around. And so we're gonna give them a seat in our new government so that every tribe is represented. And really cool to see how these guys are looking to the West. They're looking to the example of America and trying to say, how does that work, a Jeffersonian democracy, in the context of what we have in Burma? It's not going to look like it does in the United States, but they're trying to make it fair and equitable. And it's really cool to see. But Burma is in a tough place, very difficult. I mean, the stuff that we saw over the past few days was just mind-numbing. It was very emotionally draining, let's put it that way. Many bodies in the streets. Let me show you again the scene that I was talking about with where we got bombed, and I will narrate it a little bit. See if I can fix the audio. So here I'm running for shelter because there's a storm drain here, and we heard a jet coming from the distance. So here I'm just narrating what we're seeing. We're listening to the jets coming. Dave Eubank comes running up, and he jumps in the storm drain with one of the other rangers, and we hear the jet getting closer, so we crawl up underneath the cement overhead cover.
Behind us. Well, good job, Chuck. Thank you, Jesus. Help miss again. That was the bomb.
Dave Eubank prays all the time. And so he just prays nonstop, which is one of the things I love about him. And we're waiting, and the jet goes around, comes back again. It just was doing circles. Now, it dropped those bombs about one city block from us. So even a block away, so you can see the smoke there, the smoke rising from where the bomb dropped. It's just about a block away. It hit a couple civilian houses. There's still civilians in that town, many civilians, and we were helping to evacuate them when the jet came in. And so a couple of houses got hit. The houses there, as you saw in this other footage, are made from bamboo and wood. And so they burn very easily, especially since it's dry season there. And what it did is it ended up burning most of the downtown area of that town that was under attack while we were there. This is just day before yesterday when that video was shot. And there's a whole lot more like that. I was just showing you a representative sample of what you're going to see if you go back and if you follow along with me as I release the videos from every day of our trip, and you get to watch. So you can give on YouTube if you like, Lori, by you just go to those three dots in the bottom right hand of your screen if you're on a computer, and click there. And no, that just says report. So there should be a place there. Oh, just to the right of the comment box, there's a little dollar sign in a box. I'm just looking on mine here. And you go to that dollar sign, you can go super sticker, super chat, membership, or membership gifting. So the first three are the ones that will help you if you'd like to donate here on YouTube. But you can also, and I would recommend that you go to chuckholton.com and you can support me over there. If you do that, then I get more of it because YouTube takes a significant chunk. But also it's separate from YouTube. So YouTube demonetizes a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, because if you mention Hamas, if you mention terrorism, if you a lot of these things, the automatic algorithm on YouTube just demonetizes that video. And so I usually have to go back on almost every video I put up, and I have to dispute their demonetization. They then have a human being look at it, and almost every time they go, oh yeah, this is fine, and then they remonetize it. But by then it's had most of the views it's going to have. So it's frustrating. If you go over to chuckholton.com, that takes you to my locals page. You can subscribe over there. You can get access to content that I can't show on YouTube. So some of the more graphic videos that I shot on this trip, we're going to put them up over on the Chuck Holton website there. And then they can't ban me or demonetize me. If I put some of the stuff that lots of dead bodies, lots of wounded soldiers, things like that. If I put some of that video up on YouTube, I'd get my account terminated immediately. It's certainly not safe for broadcast, but if you are a supporter over there, then I can make it available to you. If you really want to see what it really looks like over there, you can go support me on locals. And it also helps me be much more independent of YouTube or anybody else for that matter, CBN or Newsmax or anybody else. So I would recommend that you do that. If you want to support me, that's the best way to do it, is to do it over on chuckholton.com. Connie just posted a link to my link tree. On the link tree, there are links to PayPal, Venmo, anything like that if you want to give over there. So that's enough about that. Let's see if there are any questions now. I'm going to do another live on CBN coming up in about 25 minutes. YouTube does keep 30% of all donations. So it is definitely better to give on chuckholton.com if you feel led to do that. I'm not telling you need to. I'm unbelievably grateful for the donations that come in. We're trying to give away as much of them as we can. We are helping these girls down in Colombia. I'm getting messages from them almost every day with more needs. We're helping more and more of them. That group is growing, these single mothers down there. B Borrowed says, dang, no helmet being worn. There's a reason for that, because if you had to hump your body armor up and down those mountains, if you had to haul it around everywhere, it's hot in Burma, and that stuff is heavy and bulky, and we just literally didn't have the ability. If you look at this scene here of us driving, we're driving in a vehicle. It's like a Toyota Hilux. It's like a Toyota Tundra. And we had sometimes up to 20 people in those vehicles, in each of those vehicles, traveling these 4x4 roads, very steep, very dangerous. And we have to haul all our gear. So we were told, you got to strip it down as much as possible. I literally wore the same pair of pants for a week. Um, you know, I was switching my socks out and my underwear out, just washing one and wearing one. And then and when I say washing, that means rinsing them out in the stream when I get a chance and hanging them off my pack and letting them dry. It was a lot like Ranger School, only less walking. To be perfectly frank, I would have preferred walking in many cases because those roads are so bad. And if you're riding in the back of that truck, you can see on chuckholton.com, I put up a video of us riding in the back of the truck. The roads are so rough. As that truck bounces along, it's just slamming on every one of those rocks and ruts and everything. And the metal cage that's on the back of that truck is basically punching you in the thigh and in the lower back and in the kidneys and stuff. It is so uncomfortable. It's just miserable. Traveling around is just miserable out there. And walking would be a lot slower, but it'd be a lot less painful than riding in the vehicle. So let's see here. You guys, if you want to follow the Free Burma Rangers, I highly recommend you do so. FBR is doing a lot of really good work out there. So let's see here. We saw a lot of, the Burmese army still holds a lot of ground in these tribal areas, even though they've lost quite a bit of ground in the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever, since they've started the coup, since they did the coup. They have bases, and the local rebel army, I'm just going to call them the rebel army because it's actually a bunch of different kind of territorial militias. So you have a Karen National Defense Force, and then you have the Karen Army, and then you have the Karenni Defense Force, and then you have the Po'a Army or the Pa'o Army or whatever. And there's all these different militias, and some of them might be a couple hundred people, some of them might be 10,000 people, but they've all been sort of doing their own thing, trying to resist the Burmese army for the last 70 years. And now they're starting to bring them together and starting to form them together and make a more cohesive unit. The thing is, nobody is supplying them with weapons and ammunition. When I first started reporting on this, like 15 years ago, they were using like literally bows and arrows and slingshots in some cases. They had 22 rifles. They had muskets. I saw some muskets on this trip. Literally that old flintlock muskets that they were fighting with. Since then, the only supply of weapons that they've had is one of two things. It's either they make them themselves or they capture them from the enemy. There's not really a third option. There's nobody that's providing them with weapons like they are with Ukraine or Israel or anything like that. And so I saw an astounding variety of weapons. Just to give you an idea, the other day, just 3 days ago, in that fight where we were getting bombed that was a Russian MiG that was bombing us, by the way, and strafing us. Bombing is dropping bombs or shooting missiles. Strafing us is they've got cannons on those things, and they come in and just like in the movies, just as they're flying by. We were talking about it. We were saying we are probably the only Americans to be strafed, to have literally been strafed by a military jet or airplane since World War II or Korea. I mean, I can't think there was, the army in Vietnam, the enemy army in Vietnam didn't have aircraft, so we didn't get strafed there. We were not getting strafed in Iraq or Afghanistan or anything like that. So we probably are the only ones who have been strafed. And let me tell you, it's not fun. Having a plane bearing down on you at supersonic speed and shooting its cannons at you at a very high cyclic rate is, boy, it'll up the pucker factor. There's not a lot of hiding from that. Fortunately, those guys are not very well trained. They targeted us. That's one of the reasons they have the Russians that are helping them, is the Russians are training them, and they are getting better. But they targeted us one time when we were up in Shan State. They send out these recon airplanes, like a turboprop. I don't know if it's an Illusion or some kind of Russian plane or something, but they're like 2-engine prop aircraft, and they fly around about 4,000 feet up, and just this, and they have a graphics or a camera package on those things that can practically read your name tag. So they fly around up there until they see a target, and then they get a grid coordinate for that target, and then they send that over to the airbase, and the airbase scrambles a fighter jet who comes in and bombs that target. So at some point in that process, that kill chain, they call it, they either got the wrong grid coordinate, or the guy just wasn't very accurate when he was trying to hit that grid coordinate. But we were on this side of a hill, like here, and the plane came in this direction, the jet plane, and dropped its bombs, and the bombs hit this side of the hill, the other side of the same hill we were on, and didn't hit us, because we were in what's called an enfiladed position, meaning he would have had to go over the hill and be very accurate to hit us. If he had just switched his reversed his route and came around the other direction, he could have creamed us. I mean, he could have nailed us, but he came from the wrong direction, and so he hit the back side of the hill instead of the front side of the hill, and we were very grateful for that because we didn't have a lot of cover. I didn't even really know he was targeting us, because all the sound, we felt the vibration from the bomb and heard the bomb, but it didn't sound like it was that close. It actually was very close, but because it was on the back side of the hill, the sound went the other direction. But part of our group was in a different place and was watching the whole, thing happen. And he was like, there's no way in heck that guy was not aiming directly at you. He just dropped too soon. And when he came back around to strafe us, he strafed the hill next to us. You can imagine that guy's going pretty fast. Everything kind of looks the same on the ground. And thank God, I mean, that was an answer to prayer. It was kind of a miracle. That it's hard for me to imagine that happening if the pilot had been an American pilot. Of course, we don't use a lot of dumb bombs as American pilots. We use precision munitions mostly. But anyway, it was an exhausting couple of weeks. It was an amazing couple of weeks. We saw and did some incredible things. We brought the gospel of Jesus Christ to literally thousands of people, because what we do is, while the doctors are treating the wounded, while we're helping the internally displaced, they get all the children in the area together, and they put them in a soccer field or up under cover of the jungle or something like that. And they do what's called a Good Life Club. It's like a backyard Bible club, used to be when I was a kid. And they do games, and they do singing, and they do things like that, but they always bring the gospel and tell them about Jesus. Tell them Jesus loves them. Talk to them about salvation. And then they hand out t-shirts to everybody. They hand out some food to everybody, and they send them on their way. So there are lots and lots of people who are being reached with the gospel through this ministry that the Free Burma Rangers does. But they're not just bringing hope to people, they're bringing help in the form of medical care, helping the transportation to help them get out of harm's way. And we will never run if they can't run. So if we're with a group of IDPs and they get us attacked, there were several times during this mission when they got bombed while we were there. We're not going to run away if they can't run away with us. And so we stayed there with them, and we got bombed right alongside those people. In some cases, the Rangers were literally laying on top of children and shielding them with their bodies as the jet aircraft came in and strafed them. Some of the Rangers have been killed and wounded in doing that. There was one Ranger who was killed on this mission in somewhat strange circumstances that we're still kind of working on. But anyway, you can learn more about that again by watching the actual videos that I put out, the podcast that'll come out every day, starting, I think, tomorrow. How are the bad guys getting these weapons? Well, the bad guys are with the Burmese military. And the Burmese military gets money from taxes. They get money from aid from countries like Russia and Iran and China. And they get money from, gold mining, sapphire mining, the heroin trafficking, drug trafficking through their country. It's a criminal organization. It's a giant criminal organization masquerading as a country. And so that's where they get their money. And they have not the best equipment, but they've got attack helicopters. I saw Hind D, which is like a flying tank. It's a Soviet era attack helicopter. They're absolutely terrifying. I saw the day that the thing was bombing us and it hit the backside of the hill, he was streaking overhead. We were hiding in the jungle, in the trees, and I was looking up at a little clearing in the trees, and every time the guy went by, he would bank right over the top of me, and I can almost see the guy's face, the pilot, as he went streaking by at like maybe 1,000 feet over our head. But I could clearly see the paint scheme on the aircraft. I could see the number on the tail, things like that. And they are MiG fighter jets. I don't know what vintage they are. I'm not really up to speed on my MiG identification, especially when you've got your head down in the grass. What you do when they start bombing you is you get as low as you possibly can and try to get behind something or between something that will stop shrapnel. And when you're talking about a 500-pound bomb, you don't even have to be hit by the shrapnel. If it lands close enough to you, the force of the blast will scramble your insides, will make your organs explode and kill you anyway, or give you traumatic brain injury, something like that. We had a couple of those on this trip as well. Fortunately, none of them landed close enough to me for me to have that problem, but believe me, if we're out in the jungle and one of those things comes over, I am going to find the lowest possible place or get behind a big tree or something. And you have to open your mouth and plug your ears at the same time to try to equalize the pressure so that the overpressure doesn't blow your eardrums out and you start bleeding from the eardrums. So you do this. And you plug your ears and open your mouth until that bomb goes off. Okay, let's see what other questions we've got here. And Hind D is an older version, but the United States has its most lethal helicopters an Apache. The most lethal Soviet helicopter was the Hind D. It was incredible. Where will I go next? Well, I'm going to real estate photography. I will get to your question in just a second. I'll tell you what, let me answer that one first, and then I'll talk about where I'm going next. The food supply in Burma is pretty rough. Those people eat anything. They eat everything. We had a bunch of dogs that were following, just stray dogs that were following our minstrel group of, 50 something. It's basically a platoon plus, or a small company of rangers. We were going around, and the rangers would throw all these dogs in the back of the pickup trucks, and there's not a lot of room in there. And I kept wondering, why are they bringing all these dogs with us? But then I realized there's one less. And, there's one dog less. There's one dog less. And I asked, what happened to that little brown dog? And they said, we ate him. Like, what? You what? So they eat the dogs. They eat birds. They shoot squirrels. They eat bugs that they find. Mostly we subsisted on rice with some sort of unrecognizable sauce to put on it. And I usually had no idea what was in the sauce. If it had meat in it, I didn't really eat much of it because I wasn't sure what kind of meat it was. And I'm trying not to eat as much meat anyway. So I lost some weight on this trip without a doubt. But we get American soldiers get MREs. We get meals ready to eat, right? And it's about 2,500 calories, one of these meals, and it's got good American style food in it. And it's very filling. The soldiers in and rangers in Karen State, what we got every day was a small plastic bag, like a sandwich bag, with about 2 fistfuls of rice, white sticky rice in it, with some little extra bag of sauce that might have had a little bit of meat in it. Sometimes it had some egg in it. Sometimes the egg was rotten. They'll just throw that stuff in the back of the truck and keep it for 4 or 5 days. And they don't mind eating it if it's rotten. It just was not great food. But they love spicy food. And so they always have some pepper. So whatever they gave me, I just put so much spice in it that I would basically see dead relatives and forget my name. And then I didn't really have to dwell on what it was in that sauce that I was eating. And they go out in the jungle and go wandering around and start picking stuff. And, they, oh yeah, you can eat these leaves and you can eat this. And they chop it up and stick it in there. I'm not complaining. I felt like, I ate a lot of rice. I don't usually eat much rice, but I did okay. I lost a little weight. Well, I can put it back on easy enough now that I'm out. So that's okay. The people in Burma just grow, they're subsistence farmers. They grow what they need to eat. So there's very, very little in the way of you can buy things at the store to eat. I think most people in Burma would find that very strange. It's a third world country. They don't go to the store and buy things. They make or catch or kill what they eat. There you go. So where am I going next? Well, and I've only got a few minutes left. I am going to leave tomorrow. I had a little hiccup with my passport. It was in my bag in the outside pocket, and I thoughtlessly put my insect repellent in that same pocket because it was the most easy to get to pocket. And then threw my bag in the back of the truck, and 15 people jumped in the truck on top of my bag and exploded my bug juice all over my passport and literally melted my melted my passport. I think what did I do with it? They're going to give it back to me, but I melted my passport. It's destroyed. I wrecked my passport. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So when I got here, I went to the consulate and I looked on their website and they said, you have to, if you have a mangled passport, you have to submit a form and you have to get an appointment at the consulate to get a new one. And here's the form, or here's the schedule to get an appointment. The first appointment they had available was 2 weeks from now. And I was like, there's no way I'm staying here for the next 2 weeks. I got too much to do. And so I got in a taxi and I went to the consulate and I knocked on the window and the guard guy was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I need a new passport. And he's like, you got to make an appointment. And I said, I know, I tried. There's not any appointments available for the next 2 weeks. He said, well, then come back in 2 weeks because we can't let you in without an appointment. I was like, dude, I'm an American citizen. You're letting me in this consulate. It's an American consulate. They have to help me. I need help. And he's like, no, there's not. And we went back and forth and back and forth. And I was like, I'm staying here until you help me, dude. And so finally, they got bulletproof glass with that little banker's slot underneath, where you pass a dollar bill. He passed the handset of his telephone through that thing and let me talk to somebody so he said, let this guy tell you no. inside the consulate. And I was just like, please have mercy on me. I've got to get another passport. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. Come on in. We'll give you a new passport. And so they told the guy, yeah, let him in. I go in there. There's nobody in there. There's like 2 people in there. And I'm like, why were there no appointments? I mean, the people in the passport office are sitting around doing nothing. I was like, you got to be kidding me. In 10 minutes, I gave them the form that I filled out. I gave them some little passport photos. I gave them the money that I, had to pay. And they're like, yep, come back tomorrow morning. We'll have your passport for you, and I'm like, good grief. So I'm leaving tomorrow and I'm going to, Bangkok, Mumbai, Saudi Arabia, and then Yerevan, Armenia. So after about 24 hours, I'll be in Armenia, and then you'll hear from me from there. If I have time, I'll try to do a live from Mumbai because I have like a 7-hour layover there. But that's a iffy. I don't know how if I can even do that, but I maybe you might hear from me in Mumbai. So my next stop is Armenia. After that, I'll be going to Israel, God willing. And so we got a lot going. No, the guard was a local, Glenn. They employ local guards at all U.S. Military bases, or not military bases, U.S. consulates around the world. Okay, so when will Chuck have other live reports today? In 3 minutes, I will be going live on CBN. So I've got to go, and I'll be just briefly talking about what we did in Burma, and then I'm going to actually be talking about Israel and Russia, what's going on between them right now. And because I don't want to spoil all the stuff I'm going to be putting out for CBN on what I did in Burma. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all very much. God bless you. Please like and subscribe and share this podcast. I would be very grateful if you do that. Just go hit the like button. That just tells YouTube that more people ought to see this. And we're trying to boost the numbers, get the numbers going. So thanks a lot. We'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye.